Welcome to the lecture series of Design of Steel Structural Elements. So today we are starting module 5. So in the first session of module 5, we'll be learning what is a beam, what are the different types of beams, what is the lateral stability of a beam, what are laterally supported beams, what are laterally unsupported beams, and what are the modes of failure of beams. So let me share my content. Yeah. So this is the syllabus of module 5. You can go through this a little later. So in this first session, as I told you, we are covering introduction, beam types, lateral stability of beams, and different modes of failure of beams. So if you, what is a beam? Beam is a horizontal member, right? So it carries transverse loads. It carries transverse. So beam is a horizontal member, and the loads acting on the beam are called transverse loads. They will be acting in the direction perpendicular to the longitudinal axis of the member. So this causes bending moment and shear force. Okay. So a beam is a structural member subjected to transverse load, and that is loads are perpendicular to the longitudinal axis, which produce bending moment and shear force. So there are different types of beams. So you can see these are called joists. They are closely spaced. They are closely spaced, and they do not support other beams. They support only floor and roof. You can see these joists are supporting the floor, and these joists are supporting the roof. Okay. So they are closely spaced and they are not supporting other beams. Whereas the second type is called as a girder. These are deep beams. So you can see the depth of the beam is more compared to other beams. This is you can see that there are number of beams here. These are the stringer beams, which are supported by floor beams, which we'll take up in the next slide. Floor beams. This floor beams are spanning between the girders. So this is one girder and this is one girder. They are of longer spans. The span of the girders will be long and they take greater loads than the beam and may support other smaller beams like this. So this is a girder. Girders are normally used in bridges. Next is the floor beams. The same diagram I have taken. So the floor beams are supported by girders, and the floor beams will support the other beams like this. So all these beams are supported by floor beams, and floor beams are further supported by girders. Spandrel beam. So you can see that this is the perimeter of a floor. This perimeter of the beam around the perimeter of a floor, which will support the external walls, are called as the spandrel beams. Okay. The next one is a lintel beam. So any opening, if you take, say an opening like this, a door opening or a window opening in a structure, the masonry above the opening has to be supported by a horizontal member like this. The horizontal member which supports the weight of the masonry structure above it is called as a lintel beam. So the design procedure for all the beams are same. The last one is the rafter. These rafters are supported by purlins. Rafters are supported by purlins, and this further supports the roof. They are inclined members like this. Rafters are inclined members. Next, we will take up a beam under bending. So let us consider a beam which is supported like this and subjected to a vertical loading like this. So this causes the beam to deflect. This is the deflected shape of the beam. This is a vertical deflection. So you can see that this dotted line is the neutral axis, and all the layers above the neutral axis are subjected to compression, and the layers below the neutral axis are subjected to tension. So we have studied columns. So in the columns, the members are subjected to compression load like this, and it will buckle laterally. It will buckle laterally. This in this situation, in case of beam, where the top flange or the compression flange is subjected to compression like this in this direction. So this is the top flange which is subjected to compression. This will have a tendency to buckle in the lateral direction. Lateral direction. So if you take the cross section, this is the cross section of the beam. We use I sections in these steel structures, right? So this I section, this is the compression flange of the section, and this is the tension flange of the section, and this is the web. This is the web. The flange will have a tendency to buckle both in horizontal or in the horizontal or lateral direction, and also in the vertical direction. But it will not buckle in the vertical direction because of the presence of the web. The web will restrain buckling in the vertical direction. So therefore, there will be buckling, lateral buckling. So normally in a section, IZZ will be more. That is, moment of inertia in Z direction will be more compared to moment of inertia in the Y direction. So if we'll go to the next slide. So if in case the beam is more deep, the moment of inertia in Y direction is more compared to moment of inertia in Z direction, there will be twisting around twisting around Y direction. So this will not happen normally because IZ is greater than IY. And bottom flange, the top flange will have a tendency to buckle because it is subjected to compression, whereas the bottom flange is subjected to tension. It will remain straight. So what happens, how the beam will deflect when it is not when there is an eye in structural steel, in steel structure, is it is like this. You can see this. So this is the green one is the beam I section. You can see the cross section here. This is the top flange and this is the bottom flange, and this is the web. This is the web. So when there is a load which is acting downwards, it will deflect vertically like this. So you can see the dotted line. It is deflected vertically. You can see the vertical deflection here. So along with this, there will be lateral buckling. This is lateral buckling. The flange from here has shifted to this place. It has buckled in the lateral direction. Along with that, it has twisted because the bottom flange is fixed, whereas the compression flange will move in the lateral direction. Because of this, twisting happens. So you can see that there is twisting. So therefore it is called lateral torsional buckling. You can see this in the cross section in a better way. So this is the original position of the I section or the beam cross section. So you can see there is a lateral deflection. This is the lateral deflection, and since the tension, the bottom flange will be in its place, and this gets laterally deflected. There is a twist here. So the two flanges in the web actually represent one rigid unit. So this rigid unit gets twisted. The top flange tending to buckle bends farther than the bottom flange, which tends to remain straight. The bottom flange tends to remain straight, and in consequence, the entire cross section rotates. This is the angle of twist you can see. So therefore, normally in steel structures, the compression flange is supported like this so that it will not undergo lateral buckling. So in case it undergo lateral buckling, what happens? Its moment carrying capacity reduces. In order to increase its moment carrying capacity, so the compression flange will be supported will be supported like this. So this is one way of supporting, that is by embedding the compression flange in concrete. So beam in steel structures, especially in buildings, are laterally supported by placing floor decks on top of them. During construction, before placing the floor decks, if the beams are not supported laterally, they undergo lateral buckling. So, if they are not supported, they undergo lateral buckling. The lateral restraints have to be provided in the plane of their compression flanges, like it was previous, like in the same plane. It has to be, the support has to be in the same plane in order to avoid lateral buckling. So, such beams are called laterally restrained beams or laterally supported beams. Both are same. Here they are supported. So, if not provided adequately, if the support is not provided adequately, the beams would buckle laterally, which results in reducing their maximum moment carrying capacity. So, if they are not supported, it will reduce its moment carrying capacity. So, laterally unsupported beams are called laterally unrestrained beams. So, you have two types: laterally restrained or laterally supported, laterally unrestrained or laterally unsupported beams. So, coming to the lateral stability, this problem is there only in steel structures, because in RCC we use rectangular sections only. So why do we use I sections in steel? So you know this bending stress distribution will be like this. There will be maximum stress at the extreme fibers. Bending stress will be maximum at the extreme fibers and it is zero at the neutral axis. So if you provide a rectangular section, especially if it is made up of steel, it is very expensive. Most of the material around the neutral axis will not be stressed. So it is of even so therefore you can remove some of the material. So you need more material in the flanges because the bending stress is taken by the flanges. Therefore in steel structures we take I sections in order to make it economical. So therefore the flanges will support the bending, whereas the web will take up the shear. So the beams will attain its full moment capacity when it is loaded in flexure. If lateral instabilities of beams are avoided, so lateral instabilities of beams are avoided, that means, or if the support is given, it will attain its full moment capacity. If laterally unrestrained length of the compression flange is long, again, if you take simply supported beam, the unsupported length will be long here. Therefore, here also lateral buckling will takes place. Supposing if you take a fixed beam, it depends upon the end condition also. If it is fixed at the supports, to the effective length which is not supported will be less compared to simply supported, because at the fixed ends there will be some restraints. The flanges will be restrained, so there will be some lateral supports, but whereas the length over which the unsupported beam is there will be less compared to that of simply supported beam. So, therefore, in steel structure, beams are restrained laterally by floor decks. If adequate restraints are provided to the beam in the plane of the compression flange, such beams are called laterally restrained beams or laterally supported beams. This is a repetition for you. And how to avoid this lateral torsional buckling. So already I have discussed about this method, that is providing concrete in the placing the compression flange in a bed of concrete. So embedding the flange inside the concrete, this is one way of avoiding lateral torsional buckling. And the second one is providing a shear connector. So this is a member which is connected to the flange of the beam, either it is welded or bolted. So and this part of this member goes inside the concrete and reduces the lateral torsional buckling. So by providing shear connector is one, by embedding the flange in the concrete is the other one. Third one, by using cross frames. So two beams which are one beside the other can be connected by cross frames like this. So this will avoid lateral buckling. And the other one is by providing a diaphragm. This is a steel sheet which is connected or welded to the webs of the uh, uh, I sections. And this is a plan. You can see in the corners you have columns, and the corners are connected by bracing, by cross bracing, So this will avoid the lateral buckling. So this is the main beams which are running in this direction, and these are the cross beams. It will avoid the deflection of the main beams as well as the cross beams when they are provided with a cross bracing like this. And now we'll come to the different modes of failure. The first one is due to excessive bending. This failure occurs when the beam undergoes excessive deflection, vertical deflection. So this happens when the vertical load is more. So you can see that there is excessive bending in the vertical direction. And the second mode of failure is the due to lateral buckling, and it is also called lateral torsional buckling, so which we discussed. So this, you can see, this is the beam which is having a long span. So this is a beam girder. So it is twisted, and there is also a vertical deflection and lateral movement. So this is failure due to lateral buckling or lateral torsional buckling. And the third failure is due to local buckling. See, the web may buckle like this, or the flanges may buckle like this. So here I've shown schematically like this, the flanges buckling or the web which is buckled. So you can avoid this by adding flange plates. So like this. So if this is the I section, so you can add additional plates, additional support to the flanges can be provided by adding flange plates. This is a cross section. Okay. Similarly, a bottom flange plate can be provided. So for the web, how do we do it? I'll draw the longitudinal section. So this is the top flange and this is the bottom flange. So the beam is continuing. Sorry, one second. I'll just go back. Yeah, I'll draw again. So this is the top flange and this is the bottom flange. The beam is continuing like this in both the directions. And here the vertical stiffeners can be provided. Verticals, you have studied plate girders in your previous semester. So we provide vertical stiffeners like this in order to avoid this web buckling. So this is the end of session 1, and in this session we learnt about beams, different types of beams, and what is laterally supported beams and what are laterally unsupported beams, what is lateral torsional buckling, and what are the modes of failure of beams. So in the next session we will study about the factors affecting this lateral torsional buckling. So this is all for today. Thank you. Let us end the slideshow. Thank you.